Plus, they just haven't had the paper. It's been a couple years.
I told Carol, I said, you know what? I need some
So
the hair and
that's a hard pull.
It's like a really, just something everybody was fighting and stuff.
6 years. I still go there. That's my hair out somewhere.
This is the guy that accepted that one that was out the door, opens angry, like a bunch of bees.
I'd always get a call, I worked in bureau, and I'd get home, there'd be a call, and I'd say, hey, I'm not that. I didn't have any kids at my house, so it was kind of unfair, you know, we were both called during the day. You're late, 1931.
Okay.
Town of Malabar regular town council meeting, Monday, March 18, 2019 at 7:30. Shall commence. Please stand for a prayer.
As we bow our heads to pray, may each of us thank our Creator for the privilege of living in and serving our community. We ask for wisdom and guidance in any and all decisions. We also ask for protection of members of our armed forces, pray for their safe return, and give strength to their loved ones. These we ask in thy name. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council Chair Mayor Patrick T. Riley. Here. Vice Chair Steve Ribbit.
Here.
Council members Grant Ball.
Yeah.
Brian Bale.
Here.
Dick Horn.
Here.
Danny White.
Here.
Town Administrator Matt Stinnett.
Here.
Town Attorney Carl Bone.
Here.
And I'm the Town Clerk Treasurer Debbie Franklin.
Is there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda? We'll move on to approve the regular town council meeting minutes, March 4, 2019. Entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried 5-0. All right, Carl, you're up.
Yeah, Carl. No, nothing. I'll be talking quite a bit.
Okay.
later on now.
All right, move on to the sheriff, please. Thanks for coming.
No problem. Hello all. We had a good month. Let me get my spectacles because I can't read these things anymore. Responded to a total of 199 calls in town in the month of January. Of note, we had 0 burglaries in the town, which was a lot better than December when we had 15. We had 4 thefts. I do know one of those involved a trailer, so please tell everyone lock the trailers up. Because I know it was a double axle that got stolen. We did 7 traffic enforcement details with 22 traffic stops, and everything else is in categories of 1 to 4s, so nothing significant in those numbers.
Sounds like y'all are doing a good job.
Well, I mean, it's quite honestly, it's y'all helping us do a good job, so that's quite honestly the way it works. So yes, sir.
Did we have a school bus pulled over for speeding?
No.
That I don't know.
It broke down.
It broke down. I wasn't sure. We went around it and everything, and it didn't make any sense to me. And then I heard somebody say, "Well, they go flying down the road." You know.
No, that would be my ex-wife. She's a school bus.
She drives a different kind of bus.
I guess you can tell me if I lied to somebody the other day or not. Asked me, the deputies assigned to patrol the Malabar area also get into Brook Hollow. I said, sure.
Yes.
They do, don't they?
Yep.
Okay.
That's the subdivision right up off, you're talking about the one in the north, right? Yep,
Yeah.
I go in there all the time. The reason I do
You
it.
can't get there from Malabar, but it is Malabar.
Yeah, we know it's Malabar. The first part is Palm Bay, but then when you get to the turn, it's all Malabar. So,
Over the bridge anyhow.
yes.
Well, thank you very much.
Yep, okay,
Appreciate
no
it.
problem.
Have a good night.
Do you need me to stay for anything, or you're all good? Yep, okay, good.
All right, we'll move on to staff reports.
Only that I'm gonna be out from April 2nd through April 5th. It's that week after the council meeting. But I'll be available to staff and to you guys, phone, text, email, whatever. Okay,
So April 2nd to what?
the 5th, Tuesday through Friday.
I did approve that, did you approve that?
Actually, it's Tuesday through Sunday.
Are you in town?
Be very careful.
That's all.
That's it, okay. We have no public comments, we have no public hearing. So we'll move down to resolutions. Appoint Barbara Cameron to Trails and Greenways Committee, Resolution 04-219.
I move for approval.
Please read by title only.
You know, whether you want to or not, that's a good idea.
Okay, wait a minute. Resolution of the Town of Malabar, Brevard County, Florida, providing for the appointment of Barbara Cameron to the Malabar Trails and Greenways Committee as an alternate member, providing for repeal of resolutions or parts of resolutions in conflict herewith, providing for an effective date.
We'll entertain a motion to approve.
I so move. Thank you.
Hey, any discussion?
But I think that's a very appropriate honor for her and for the town, I think. To make her a part of that board, that her husband was responsible for the initiation of it.
Any other discussion? All right. We'll do a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Ball.
Aye.
Councilmember Vale.
Aye.
Councilmember Rivet.
Aye.
Councilmember Corn.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you. We'll move on to approve recommendation from the Park and Recreation Board for memorial wall at the Malabar Community Park. They presented pictures and materials, and the only thing they didn't provide was cost.
The park board chair is here.
Oh, okay. Would you mind coming up and speaking on it? Thank you.
I got it up behind you.
Oh, okay. Yes, as far as the cost goes, I thought the way it was presented to us is that we present it to you, then come back with a basic plan, and then you would be sending it out for cost. So I wasn't sure if that's correct, or
Yeah.
Dorothy led us that way, so I'm gonna blame it on Dorothy.
No, we can do it without cost, it's just the town will do most of it.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying,
Because
you provided the
materials-
material, the idea.
Basically, the rough estimate, and then one of the things we were going back and forth on is the basic material of it, whether it's a granite or if it's a polished concrete, which I think when we get some quotes, maybe we can decide which way to go on it.
And it's modular where we would just do the center section first.
Yeah, you do this intersection, and then
Add to
it's
it
it's
as
got,
needed.
yeah, little ridges on the posts themselves that we
Correct.
had looked at, and then so you can expand it outwards, so add some more names to it. And this was out where the flagpole is, right around the flagpole area.
Correct.
So we get all that cleaned up with the flagpoles and some lights on, it look really nice at night and during the daytime.
Is there any questions?
Have we reached out to any local, or if we haven't yet, I would like to reach out to some local contractors and companies. A lot of the contracting businesses are doing very well right now, so, you know, a lot of them want to contribute to the community, so.
That'd be
reach
great.
out.
Yeah.
And
Again, do we need a motion to approve this or what?
Yeah, well, we're in discussion right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
the agenda report says that under action items, we're looking to approve the plan and we're looking for direction to staff. So we can put it out to bid and then tell the contractors about it, but that way it's legally advertised.
This was an idea that came out of an idea I presented to the Parks Board when I was on it. And then early on, when I was on council, that we have some people who have done enough for the community that they deserve perpetual recognition. We've got one rock out there, after one former official, but we need more than that. And I recommended a garden with a spot in each, around in the garden, and Hans and the subsequent Parks and Recreation Advisory Board came up with the idea of the wall.
There's no maintenance. That's-
Exactly.
So, you know,
And that was
well,
one of the
and they
things.
liked the idea a lot better, but it came out of the idea that we should do something for those who have gone
Above and
and
beyond.
given their life to the town.
And we'll put names on it later, you know, we'll have a meeting just, you know, what names should we put on there. But anyway, we just wanna get moving forward with the wall and the granite.
I like the idea.
I think an issue along with this is what criteria are we going to use to decide what names go on such a wall?
Well, we can do that.
That- that should be considered- Yeah, that should be considered at the same time. you know.
Or just consideration as each name comes up. And we've got people like, go back to the Hugginses who were instrumental in the initial formation of the town, as an incorporated entity.
I think, if we like the design we presented here, you know, we can go out and look at bids and kind of bring that information back together.
Yes.
Perhaps there's a local contractor that wants to make contributions towards it, but, you know, perhaps the next step is for Parks and Rec to do kind of a workshop to come up with the criteria that, you know, they can put the names forward, referring to how to get the name plates on there. You guys either come up with criteria or maybe a list of recommendations that you can pass up to
Okay.
council, that would
We
be
do
the
that.
next step for you guys, but as far as the construction of the wall, if we like the concept, then we start looking at, find out how much it's gonna cost us.
Okay, so
Work on getting that.
Start this process first, and then we'll move on to what names.
okay, so we need a motion to basically approve this concept, and then we'll proceed from there and go to bid. Okay, well, I will make that motion that we approve the concept and proceed to bid.
I would second that.
Any other discussion?
Is this gonna be, is there gonna be any ramification one way or the other of this House Bill 97 that we're given the sheet on about?
No,
Because that's all talking about that kind of thing.
well, I think that was talking more about the historical type of statutes.
You talking about monuments
But I-
and memorials?
But I
Yeah.
think
Well,
it'll
no,
carry
if
through,
If it
Yeah.
passes, it would affect this.
would affect this.
Because-
That's
This
what
would
I'm
be a
saying.
memorial.
So it's something,
As for instance, say a past councilman here,
mhm.
David White. Say we honored him by putting his name on that memorial. If this bill passed, and then we found out, oh, David White got 18 and a half years for being a child molester,
We can't take it down.
we can't take it down.
That's what I
If
was
that bill
Oh, okay,
passes.
gotcha.
Because that's what I just was looking at that, so,
Now, I still think we should go ahead with this project,
yeah.
but you're right. Grant.
But it's something,
If that
it's
passes-
something we need to think about as we choose the criteria for who to put on it and how to put on it, those kind of things.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried 5-0.
Great.
Thank you for your time and effort.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thanks. All right, move on to approved cell tower easement, 1830 Nalbar Road. I'll turn this over to our attorney.
Well, sure.
A little history here. Prior town administrator had presented to council the concept of amending the current lease we have with Crown. And there was a proposal to get extra money and which sounded pretty good, but then when I got the paperwork, it was anything but a lease renewal or extension. It was a completely different concept presented. The concept presented to the council is in the form of a 30-year easement. And as I told Mr. Ball, I had discussions with Matt. If the easement was a perpetual easement, I would tell you not to do this, because that ties up the property perpetually. Our current lease has an initial 5-year period, it started in 2011, the current lease.
Before that, I
Before
wanna
that?
say 8 or 9.
Okay, all right, so we have approximately 20 years or so left on the existing lease. Each 5 years, it just automatically renews. And they get the right to terminate if they want to, and they haven't yet. So, you know, we're getting lease payments, which has an accelerator, an increase amount of 15% each year, something like that. Plus,
5-year period.
yes, everybody, plus we get an amount per month for every new user. There was an initial user, and then every new user thereafter. They explained to us we're losing AT&T, so we're gonna lose that one. I don't know how many other users there are on that tower right now. But with the easement, an easement is technically a property right. We still own the dirt, okay? Subject to their easement to use the property basically for the cell tower site, plus a proposed additional 1,000 square feet, which I think Matt will kind of explain what they propose to do with that. As I said, if it was a perpetual easement, I would say no, because it would tie this thing up forever and we could never use it again. Here, we're 30 years, so we have an easement for years. The functional difference between the lease and the easement is not a whole lot of functional difference. Now granted, there are some differences technically in the law with easements and leases, but again, they're both for a term of years. We have no right under easement law to interfere with their right of access and do anything out there. So they basically control it for the next 30 years, subject to the provisions that are in the easement agreement. With the lease, we have a little bit more flexibility in what we can do out there. But as I said, the easement, basically, we can't do anything. So the question was, well, why do they want an easement? Apparently, I did some research and actually found the former Crown attorney, and she had said that this is the way they're going with these things. They feel more comfortable with an absolute right versus a leasehold right to use the property. And you know, under the lease, as I said, it renews automatically. Here we just have a straight 30-year commitment. And Matt, what's the lease payment, the easement payment? Well, how much is it? It's around 500 and something. Yeah, and there's initial upfront payment. The rest is paid out over the remaining, 30, 29 years, whatever it is. I think if we really sat and thought about it, the future of cell towers, there seems to be something in the works out there in technology, and additional users on cell towers may not be the way the future is going, okay? So if we're counting on that extra money for additional users, we may be just stagnant in that growth over the lease.
Yeah, excuse me, can I actually
Yeah.
interject here?
Oh, please do.
The 5G wireless network that's, the next generation is gonna consist of a lot more smaller, basically relay towers or cells. And and since there's more of them, they don't have to cover as long a distance, they won't need to be as high above the ground. So more of them, more distributed, and
More likely less on the big towers then?
Right.
Okay,
Right.
well, thank you, because I.
Do you remember when we did the
Yeah.
refrigerator along Mellor?
Correct.
That's what.
Okay. So there must be something else in the works with the larger cell towers that I don't know about, but, so if we're counting on those extra payments for extra users under the lease, we're probably gonna see a lot of reduction in that, maybe none. Here, so if we amortize all that out, this is probably a better financial deal for the town to do. I'm not a huge fan of the easement if it was perpetual, but it's not. So we're basically kind of doing the same thing with the lease versus the easement. And I explained to Grant, as I said, they have a property right. So if the state ever came in and exercised its powers of eminent domain, they have a property right that's compensable. They do have a right that's compensable under the lease, but it's a lot less compensable than a property right. And for whatever reason, they feel more secure with the easement right than they would with the leasehold right. So, you know, this is up to y'all. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. It wasn't what we thought it was. It's something completely different, but in long term, it doesn't appear to be a bad deal for the town. Now, you would have to consider, what's the future for this property? Do we have an immediate need for it? Can we tie it up for 30 years and not worry about it? Do we have, is the property actually usable for us? You know, I don't know the makeup of its wetlands and all that stuff. Do we have a real need for the use of that property plus the additional 1,000 square feet? That's something y'all are gonna have to decide, and I think Matt can give his input on that.
I have a couple of questions that lead to my thoughts on this. You mentioned that the potential income from the users of the tower. Who built the tower? Who owns the steel and all the rest of the tower?
Crown.
Crown built it.
It's theirs.
It belongs to them.
It's theirs.
So they leased a spot of land and they put their tower on it.
Correct. And all the improvements around it are theirs. Once the deal expires, that all goes away.
Okay. I can't see the town needing the small amount of income we're getting from that at all. I mean, what difference is it going to make?
It's not small.
How much?
$589,600, and then
Over a period of 30 years.
And then we've got another 10,000.
Up front, that's up front,
Yeah.
and the remainder's paid over years.
Yeah.
What are we getting right now, Dave?
But, can I clarify, you said over 30 years. Isn't the deal that they pay out over 20 years?
Over 20
That-
years.
that's
Payout is
correct.
over 20 years.
It's paid over
But they'll
20
have the
years.
land over 30.
Correct.
Yes,
That is correct.
yes.
So it is more than I had in mind to be. That's what I'm looking for clarification. Number two, which option is being presented to us is more amenable to expansion of the fire department facilities? We've got a fire department that is a very valuable asset to the town and to the insurance premiums the homeowners in our town are paying.
Well, the schematic I looked at didn't look like it encroached on the fire department at all.
I'm gonna have Matt talk to the map.
That's right here.
Yeah.
This is the cell tower site.
It's
And this is the
behind.
potential 1,000 extra feet that they may use.
And that's towards the soccer field.
It's away from the department.
Yeah.
Okay.
To the northeast.
And again, if I might, what you're saying is almost like just a change in terminology. They have not shown any aspirations of what to do with this property. They just feel more comfortable calling it.
That's why I say functionally they're the same. Again, if it was perpetual, I'd say don't do it, because that, you'd never have the use of that property ever again. But, you know, while we have 20 years or so left on the lease, we're just adding another 10.
So, in terms of what they plan to use the property, so
The additional property?
the additional property, Crown is looking to make this property marketable to the carriers. And so they didn't really give me a real straight answer as to what they wanted to use it for, because they really kind of built to suit for those carriers. What they did say is that with the new 5G technology and stuff, data has become the most important aspect of the business. And with that comes a lot more need for ground space more than tower space. So the idea of putting a generator on there or perhaps a server room, those are both items that are, highly profitable to them in terms of dealing with these carriers, which makes it easier for them to turn this property into something that makes some money. But they gave an example of Verizon. They worked with them on several areas where they just wanted a parking space for their technician. So, I guess what they're gonna use that extra 1,000 square feet for is not real exact, but they would like to have it in there as an option to be able to get more money for $120,000 for 1,000 square feet for the town. Seems
So it's
like
10 by
100.
Yeah.
It's big.
Yeah, so
And-
let's try to raise some more of this.
Like Steve was saying, if we could get that down, that 5G, our cable bill would go down because they'd have some competition.
Right.
You know, so.
Yeah, so let's talk about this a little bit. Let's extrapolate the technological trends forward. People are using more and more data, so the higher the data rates you want to support, the higher the frequency of the RF signal that you have to use, which means the equipment gets smaller, the ranges get shorter, so again, you need more smaller cell stations. They don't have to be located as high up because they're close together. And let's think beyond 5G. That trend is going to continue. Data usage rates are only going to go up. So that's going to continue. I don't know how steep the curve is, but it's going to continue in that direction. Bottom and state and federal governments are trying to encourage the adoption of advanced communication technology. So they're going to make it easier. We've seen already some examples of that, trying to basically prevent municipalities from regulating these refrigerator-sized cell stations. That's only going to continue. The result of all of that is it's going to be easier and easier to find places to put these, put the cellular equipment. If we can lock in a deal at this point in current market conditions, we're probably going to be doing a lot better than if we kind of renegotiate every 5 years. So for that reason, I think this is a pretty good deal.
But as we've said, our feet are tied to the commitment, theirs are not.
They can terminate.
They can terminate. In other words, if they say, yeah, we ain't using that tower for nothing anymore, then they can get out of this.
Well, but then there's, if they've got that space available, they can use it, like you said, the servers, server
Right.
farms.
But
If it's a little bit bigger area, so it is worth more, not for placement of specific radio relay equipment, but data processing.
The only question I have is, on the second paragraph of your memo to us was the difference between Crown Castle South LLC and Crown Castle Tower. Is that just a name change?
No,
Fictitious?
this is a different entity. They're two different entities.
So our lease is with the 09 or the first
The lease is with,
Crown Castle South?
yes, the easement is with 09.
Okay, good. And we're okay with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
So it's two different entities running the property, or at
Same
least-
property.
Yeah.
We're going to assign the lease to 09.
The whole,
Yeah.
the entire parcel.
Everything's gonna go, 09 gets the easement, the lease is then assigned to 09 as well. So 09 is gonna be doing everything.
The whole square.
Yes, sir.
I got you.
So we'll have part of it an easement and part of it a lease? Or
Well-
not the whole thing?
The whole thing is gonna be subject to an easement, okay? They're going to, if they think they can lease space out up there, they're going to now be the lessors, not us.
Because you mentioned early in the conversation, one of the differences between lease and easement is accessibility.
For us,
Yes.
okay?
Does that matter?
Again, that's where you'll have to figure out what's the future for this site, okay? You know, what I'm hearing is, it has not much benefit in the near future and probably not in the next 30 years to us.
It's a little parcel stuck back in the corner behind the park and the fire station. It's, you know,
That's
it's
where
bordered,
they're not
it's
even
bordered,
parcel.
it's bordered by wetlands on two sides.
And then you're saying they can bail, but we can't. Does it matter whether it's a lease or an easement?
Under
About
the
the
current,
availability?
under the current scheme, they have the right to terminate the lease
At any time.
at any time as well.
If it was an easement, would they have that same right?
It's in the easement, that's what the right is. Yes, sir.
Any other discussion?
But the odds are they're asking for 30 years for a reason. You know, they're not just gonna ask for 30 years without the intent of actually
Staying and doing
there's
something.
investing money in that property for the long run. That's why they're asking for a more secure version of the lease, basically, so they can invest in it. The likelihood of them bailing is probably slim.
The initial request they had was actually for a 99-year easement, so, that's pretty much for.
Well, again, if we're tied to the agreement, and they're flexible in the agreement, it doesn't matter what you ask for.
But let me
Ask for as far out as you can.
Let me clarify something. This is Crown's right to terminate. In the event that the lease agreement expires or terminates for any reason, Crown shall have the right but not the obligation to terminate this easement. Upon termination of this easement, grantor, that's us, we get to keep whatever payments they've made. And here's something interesting, Crown shall continue to pay the installment payments until the remaining balance of the purchase price is paid in full, except as set forth herein. So we get to keep the money, but they've got to pay us out for the 20 years.
You just said a word purchase.
Well, that,
It's a
no,
purchase of
it's the purchase of the easement. Yeah, it's still, again, if this was a perpetual easement,
Yeah.
they would buy the right to live there forever, okay? But this is a 30-year agreement, so their purchase right is only for that 30-year period, paid in 20 years.
Got it.
And if they're paying it off in 20 years, they will be paid ahead. We don't have to pay any of that back if they bail out.
Correct.
And they'll have to pay the rest of it as well.
Then they'll have to pay the rest of it too. It says right there, Crown shall continue to pay the installment payments, which is different than the lease.
Better than.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
There's just gotta be something beneficial for them here, okay?
Yeah.
They're not gonna do this deal unless it's financially beneficial to them, so unless the technology changes dramatically in the next 20 years, we're gonna be living with Crown for at least 30.
Well, technology will change dramatically.
But for them, for this not to be profitable for them.
They will have a site to work with them.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept this. I would second.
Any further discussions? All in favor? Motion carried 5-0. Well, thank you, Carl, for your time
That's it.
through this cell.
Oh,
Getting
And I apologize
making us
for
understand.
being an alarmist, but again, I was very concerned that what you were told was not what was presented. And then it kind of fell through a crack and we tried to bring this back up. So,
Thank you. Have a good evening.
wow.
Fire, you're done.
Punch out the old. What's your hurry? There's no.
Yeah. What are you gonna do for the next hour or two? Because you can't go home this early.
Alvar Moses.
You have your handout that I gave you?
We have nothing else on the agenda, so we'll move down to Brian.
I wish you were still here for me.
Got anything?
I have nothing.
Comes up at the end of the meeting.
Hey, we had a couple of citizens, or a couple of residents ask about some issues with the new website. I, directed them to Matt, who is our resident website expert. And I understand that anytime we go through a change of basically the place that's hosting it, and is there actually a company that's maintaining the site for us now, or how does that work?
We had a company that we used to kind of port over everything that was on the old website.
Okay.
A lot of that stuff didn't come over as nicely as we wanted it to, so there's a lot of work kind of getting it ready, and then as we work with all the new features and kind of learn how to operate the new site, is additional work that needs to be done.
Okay. So I guess the main concern I heard was the 2019 council minutes not being there yet. So I haven't checked in the last day or two. I don't know.
I think part of that issue is we're also looking at the new agenda and minutes program that we're kind of evaluating
Oh,
whether
okay.
we want to go with that.
Okay.
And that kind of changes the way we'll be doing it functionally, so
Okay.
we're working on it.
Okay.
Transition.
Yeah, understand. Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Grant?
I have nothing this evening.
All right, Danny?
To what Grant brought up earlier at the League of Cities meeting last Monday, we passed a resolution against this bill. And Jim, the mayor of Melbourne Beach, made the motion, I seconded it, it passed unanimously. The resolution has all good sounding intentions, but it would affect towns in a negative way. I don't see any monuments or memorials in this town that we have that would ever be a factor. But given the scenario that you and I just depicted, it could be. And so we hope that this bill doesn't pass. The other thing that I'm doing is on Wednesday morning, I'm supposed to be at the Melbourne Mall. I'm going to do a ride-along with Jim with the Space Coast Transit. And we would really like to get a bus stop over here, maybe at Marie and Malabar Road. They pass by here. If you look at their map, they've got all kinds of stops on Port Malabar, all kinds of stops on Malabar Road, and it all ends at our town limits, and it should not be that much of a factor to get them to put a bus stop here, maybe at Malabar, where the people, if they see that we have a bus stop here, they can put their bike on the bus and bike our trails, okay? Debbie and I have talked about this, and she said that, I think they told us that there wasn't room for a bus stop there. And,
Yeah.
and I went and looked, and, well, there's not room for any bus stops, they just put a sign there. It's crazy.
A lot of times, it's not even a bench.
I know, nothing.
Across from you?
And so anyway, so we're gonna try to get that done. I don't know how successful we are, but Drew's working on it too. I got a phone number, contact from the mayor of Palm Bay, William Capote, that I can follow up on too, okay?
Can I interject a second? Yeah, that was something that was a big issue for Tom Eschenberg, and he was the one that had driven it from our end, and he was the one that was told basically to pound sand. I think it's worth revisiting. I mean, this is something that we could really serve, the resident of, a significant portion of the residents of our community. I think that a stop at Town Hall, at maybe Marie Street, and then at the Palm Bay, Malabar, town line.
There is one.
There is one.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
okay.
there's already a bus stop, right there, and so it's ridiculous. It's so transparent that they just want to ignore us,
Yes.
Fire
And-
station.
Well, one of the things not having a stop doesn't make any sense, because in the 60s, the Greyhound bus came down US 1, because there used to be, Greyhound used to run, I don't know where they went, I guess they still exist. And their local bus If you just waved them down, they'd pick you up and take you to Melbourne for 50 cents.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was. I can't remember what it was then, but I know that was the way as a kid I could get to Melbourne on a Greyhound bus.
Yeah.
And why did that go away and they don't support us anymore? I don't know. So.
They have bus service further south of us that if you request it, and at a cost. Okay, Barefoot Beach, I think, or Barefoot Bay. You know, they do have a thing on their website where you can request those, but we don't want that. We want a posted bus stop, you know? I mean, they pass by here. So what's the deal? If nobody's standing there, nobody on the bus wants to get off there, they just keep rolling, you know? So we'll try to get that. Why?
I'm thinking that when I first moved here, 30-some years ago, I was told there was a bus stop here, right out front here.
Yeah.
Has that gone away?
There's no bus stop, no.
Period.
Never was? Because I was told at that time there was.
No.
Because you could get on a bus and come here.
It might have been some informal
My,
thing,
my school bus stopped at the tracks.
Every time.
Yeah.
I'm like the rest of us. I don't do much public transportation, so I don't know exactly what they do. I know, I used to ride, I could get on a train in western New York and go 5 miles to where my father's store was. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Now I want to ask your indulgence for about 5 minutes here, okay? One of the things that I looked into was any documentation, any history we had on the stormwater project that we're doing on Hall Road between Tillman Canal and Flashy, okay? I put a package in front of all of y'all. I'm sorry, I didn't put one up for you, Mayor. I printed these off at my own expense, okay? So it didn't cost the town anything.
Did I get one?
No.
I'll give you mine, okay?
No, that's all right.
As soon as I'm finished with it,
Okay.
all right? Okay, I look back, the furthest history I had on this starting was in 2017, okay? That's when our town administrator sent out a letter to everybody in that area, I take it, that there was going to be a stormwater project, okay? To change the easement in front of addresses 400 and 460 on Hall Road. I couldn't find any documentation that there was any discussion with these residents as to the change that was going to take place on the easement in front of their property, okay? Looking back on it, I think we could learn something here, because if that's in fact what happened, that these residents weren't brought in and told, we're going to dig a big ditch in front of your property, maybe this whole thing could have been settled at that point, okay? But as far as I can tell, nothing like that ever happened. After the original stormwater project was begun, and the resident at 400 Hall was upset with the aesthetics of his property, and he claimed a loss of water level in his pond that he thought would be caused by the new ditch, okay? Our TA proposed a culverting plan, okay? That happened on page 2. He started out, he sent letters to everybody on Flashy Lane, asking if they wanted to buy into this with a special assessment such as what the property owners on Smith Lane did with paving. Only one of the 11 residents there replied that they would be interested in buying in on this project, okay? But, yeah, only one, all right? Now, the two primary residents, the one on 400 Smith Lane, not Smith, excuse me, the 400 Hall and 460 Hall, were both given letters, that's on page 3 through 6 of here, detailing the cost of the culvert that would be put in their property, and would they be willing to buy into it, pay that share of it. One, Tom, the resident on 400, who complained about his pond and everything, he changed the reply to say, I do not want to pay for the culvert. He wanted us to do it, but he was not going to pay for it. All right? The other resident, 460, the Kesslers or Kieslers, I don't know how you pronounce their name, they never responded at all. Okay? So basically, we have no written agreement from anybody on the culverting project for Hall and Flashy Lane. All right? The town showed a 24-inch pipe at a cost of $13,950 for the material. We used a 30-inch pipe. I couldn't find any documentation on a invoice for 30-inch pipe, so I have no idea how much that cost us. There's no documentation I could find on the basins, so I don't know what that cost is. The 18-inch pipe for 380 feet, that was in there at a cost of $5,719.
Danny, I'm gonna let you finish, but this is supposed to be a report. If you
Right,
want
well, this is
something
my
like
report. This is my report.
Well, this
I'm
should
gonna
be an
leave this
agenda
alone
item.
after I finish. No, you'll let me finish it.
I am gonna let you finish.
All right,
I'm just
thank you.
letting you know it's.
So
it's a
don't
report.
critique my report until I'm over, okay?
I'm just
Okay.
letting you know.
All right, so here it is. I heard that, you know, in our last discussion that we should continue with this because of ethics question. All right? There was no agreement from anybody. All right? I heard a resident sit there and say that it was supposed to be paid upon completion of the project. There's no written agreement to that or even number put to that. All right? My only discussion of the Flashy Lane was here we are spending $11,400 straight up on a project that a ditch cleanup would take care of on Flashy Lane. All right. I won't pursue this any further, but I felt like we were operating or voting on something with not a clear picture of the history of what went on here. That's it.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jeff.
I'd like to go on.
Hold on. I'm sorry, Jim had his hand up earlier, I missed it. Go ahead.
So I just wanted to make a comment about the bus stop, and I think it's a very excellent idea, because we do have special needs citizens in our community that I pick up frequently from the last bus stop, right in front of the hospital, and give them a ride down here, past my house on Route 1, just to help some of the special needs people. So I think 1 or 2 bus stops somewhere in this area would help, especially the special needs people. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Go ahead, Dave.
One thing, my compliments to Danny for gathering together all of these letters and this information. I've said this before, I'll say it again. We're under no obligation as the town council of the town of Malabar to honor anything that may have been offered here by a town administrator acting as a town manager. But a town administrator does what the council tells them to do. And did not have the right to make any of these offers to any of these people. It has not been discussed by council in any positive way to give him the authority to spend a dime out there on those culverts. So therefore, we must not do any, and it's a district I'm in, and I've looked at it very closely, and I've talked with a lot of the people. And like one of like Tom's wife, Miss Selena, I think that's how you pronounce her last name. She said, he's telling me I promised to pay money. I didn't promise to pay nothing. And like you said, they changed the wording on the letter. There's a lot of misinformation about this, and there's a lot of lies about it. And there's a lot of using an authority that wasn't there. And we're wasting an awful lot of money that belongs to the people of Malabar on a 2 or 3 block area. So I would say let's forget this project. Let's clean up what we messed up, but don't make it any worse. Unless this council specifically says, do this, do that, we can't do it. And that's a response to his report, not mine.
What's your report?
My report is a compliment to the Public Works and their chairman, Tom Mallory. Tom has become an artist with that great oak. The ditches that he has done along Weber Road on the east side are fantastic. They're marvelous. You can't tell where he went from one scoop to the next. And the people are people who I have known in the past to be a bit critical, are in love with the work that's being done there. And there is one house there, the Malmesbury home, where we dug a ditch one time and he built it back in. Well, I got two questions on that, but I'll bet it won't get filled back in this time. It's done marvelously well, my compliments to him. I guess Tom is doing the digging himself as the operator of the Great Hall. I'm delighted to see what's being done.
And
That's it.
and the mowing as well.
Pardon me?
There's a lot of mowing in my area. Pepper trees
Okay.
over by the stop signs and stuff, those are all going way back, all up and down the roads.
Well, I did something yesterday.
I was almost worried that Felix was getting a little too aggressive with cleaning up the side. You know, because some people where they had, their privacy was a little bit diminished maybe, you know. But hey,
He wants to, he's been asked to clean
it
up
needs
those.
to be done.
Yeah, and it looked great.
Yeah. I don't know if we got any complaints, but I could, that's
I
very
had-
good.
I had a positive, somebody came to me and said the ditches are looking much better than I
Yeah.
thought, so.
Yeah.
Well, ride down, I did something yesterday, I rode down Weber Road from Malabar Road, down, all the way down Perry Road because it couldn't cut across. But then again, I come back Corey and paid attention from Benjamin to Malabar Road. The sides of the road and everything along Weber Road looks a whole lot different. And to me, better than along Corey Road. More of the people along Weber Road have been cleaning up out in front of their property, all the way to the road. I don't know who's responsible for keeping it mowed and looking good, but it ought to be done one way or another. There's a difference. If you ride down those two roads, you'll see a difference.
That it?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'd like to thank council and staff and coming to the Space Coast League of Cities meeting last Monday. And hope you all got something out of it. And, Mike Knight was our speaker for endangered, environmentally endangered lands. Thank you. And also, on Wednesday, I have a meeting with Mayor of West Melbourne, Hal Rose, about this overhead zoning, so I'll find out about what.
Overlay.
Overlay. Oops. Overlay zoning, so we'll see what that's all about. So I don't know if anyone's, since the workshops, gone online and looked,
I have.
okay.
The Quality Cities magazine, your last issue, has an article in there that refers to, it's one of the cities that they spotlighted, and it refers to overlay in one of them. And I finished the draft minutes, I'm gonna send them out to you and the PNC.
We just need to be careful in discussing overlays that we don't confuse the rest of the people in the city or in the town of Malabar, because they'll think we're changing their zoning again. We're not. The overlay doesn't change anything.
That's all I have. So without objection, meeting adjourned. 8:20.
Oh, you don't get to talk. You had to be in the first. Next time.